park bench artist in the bustling city of Chicago, where skyscrapers towered above and people hurried past each other with coffee cups in hand. There was a quiet corner of Lincoln Park. Beneath an old oak tree stood a weathered green bench. Most people barely noticed it, except for one man who made it his daily seat. Arthur Gray. Arthur was 72, retired art teacher with silver hair that curled beneath a wool cap. His hands were stiff with arthritis, but they still knew how to hold a pencil and brush. Each morning, Arthur carried a small sketchbook to the park and sat on that bench, sketching scenes around him. Children playing, joggers racing by, couples holding hands, pigeons fluttering at his feet. People rushed past, rarely stopping. To them, Arthur was just an old man on a bench, but to him, that bench was his gallery. In every passing face was a new story to capture. The girl in the red coat one chilly November morning. Arthur noticed a little girl, maybe 9 years old, sitting a few benches away. She wore a bright red coat and clutched a worn-out notebook. Her dark curls framed her face, and her eyes were focused, yet sad. Arthur began sketching her. The way she hunched over her notebook reminded him of himself at her age, pouring feelings into drawings when words weren't enough. After a while, he shuffled closer. "What are you writing there?" he asked gently. The girl hesitated, then shrugged. "Just stuff." Arthur smiled. "Stuff makes the best stories." She peeked at his sketchbook and gasped. "That's me." "Caught you," Arthur said with a wink. "But don't worry, I only steal moments, not secrets." For the first time, the girl smiled. Her name was Emily. Two lonely souls. Over the next few weeks, Emily returned often. Sometimes she wrote in her notebook. Other times she watched Arthur sketch. Slowly, he learned her story. Emily's father had left. Her mother worked double shifts, and she often came to the park after school to feel less alone. Arthur listened without judgment. "You know," he said one afternoon, "art is how we keep the pieces of ourselves together. When life breaks us a little, we draw, or write, or sing so the cracks turn into something beautiful." Emily's eyes shone. "Will you teach me to draw?" So, beneath the oak tree, Arthur showed her how to sketch lines, shapes, and shadows. He gave her an old pencil of his and told her, "This pencil has drawn more than pictures, it's drawn hope. Now it's yours." The community's discovery one Saturday. A jogger noticed Arthur's sketches spread across the bench. "These are incredible," she said. Soon, others stopped too, tourists, families, strangers passing by. Word spread. People began gathering around the bench. Some asked Arthur to sketch their children. Others admired his drawings of everyday park life. Emily often sat proudly beside him, her own notebook filling with drawings. Arthur, once invisible, became the heart of the park. The bench turned into more than a seat. It became a studio, a classroom, and a bridge between strangers. The day he didn't come then, one frosty morning, Arthur didn't show up. The bench sat empty. Emily waited, clutching her sketchbook, but the hours passed. The next day, and the day after. He was still gone. Worried, Emily asked the park caretaker, who knew Arthur well. He told her Arthur had been hospitalized, his arthritis had worsened, and his health was failing. Emily's chest ached. The park felt colder without him. A gift of gratitude, the community decided to act. Inspired by Arthur's sketches, they organized a small exhibition at the local library called The Park Bench Artist. They framed his drawings, printed flyers, and invited him once he was well enough to leave the hospital. On the opening day, Arthur walked in with a cane, Emily holding his hand. His eyes widened as he saw walls lined with his art-tan crowds of people clapping for him. This is all mine," he whispered. "It's all yours," Emily said softly. "You gave us beauty. We wanted to give it back." Arthur's eyes filled with tears. He had spent years believing his art didn't matter anymore. Now, he realized it had touched more lives than he ever knew. Full circle Arthur recovered enough to return to the park. Though his sketches grew slower, his lines shakier, Emily, now his student and friend, filled page after page with her own drawings. One spring afternoon, she showed him a picture she had drawn up the bench, with him and her sitting together under the oak tree. "That's us," she said proudly. Arthur smiled. "It is. And someday, Emily, when I'm gone, I hope you'll sit here and pass the pencil on to someone else who needs it." Emily nodded, hugging him tightly. Moral of the story of the park bench. Artist reminds us that sometimes the simplest gifts, listening, teaching, creating, leave the greatest legacies. Arthur thought he was just sketching for himself, but in truth, he was sketching a community together. His kindness gave a lonely girl courage, and his art gave strangers a reason to pause and connect.